Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba reported earnings that beat expectations for the quarter ending in September. Revenue jumped 55% to $5.1 billion, despite a slowdown in the overall economy. That's thanks to a strong performance of its core business, which generates revenue from vendor fees and advertising on its platform. Triple-digit growth in the cloud also contributed to the revenue surge. However, net profit dropped nearly 70%, because of a one-time gain during the same period last year, which made for a high comparable. And despite revenue growth, its cloud and entertainment business is still losing money due to high costs. The earnings report comes days before the annual Singles' Day sales event on its platform. $14 billion worth of goods were sold last year, more than double the combination of Black Friday and Cyber Monday in the U.S. Alibaba expects sales to rise up to $19 billion this year. However, the Singles' Day sales data is part of a probe by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Accounting practices by a logistics unit are also under investigation by the SEC. Well, for more on Alibaba's performance, we're joined by Brendan Ahern. He is the Chief Investment Officer of Krane Funds Advisors. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Karina.
Well, listen, we see that the economy is slowing down in China. Nevertheless, Alibaba's earnings are pretty impressive.
Yes.
Nice revenue growth there. What does that tell us about Chinese consumers in the e-commerce market there?
The Chinese consumer is alive and well. China's economy is very big and diverse. Part of it faces the headwind of tepid global growth, and yet we're seeing domestic consumption on the rise, supported by government policies.
Okay, so are we seeing that consumers are shifting away from brick and mortar and really going to e-commerce as a way to buy goods?
They're leaping over the brick and mortar mall stage and going directly online, as evidenced by Alibaba's 450 million mobile users in this quarter alone.
Okay, so we see that obviously the revenue growth is driven by ad sales.
Yes.
But are we seeing that they're adding new customers, more Chinese consumers coming onto the platform than before?
The aggregate number of users has slowed slightly, but Alibaba will continue to benefit from, one, the fact that only 50% of China's population has access to the internet today. So within China, you're going to have continued urbanization leading to new shoppers for Alibaba. At the same time, Alibaba is going to go out and find new shoppers, as we've seen with their purchase of Lazada, the largest e-commerce player in Southeast Asia.
Okay, so they do have international ambitions, but among vendors, there were a lot of concerns about counterfeit when it came to Alibaba. How has Alibaba been doing in its global ambitions?
Well, I think certainly they are going to go global. The Lazada effort and the acquisition shows, but we're seeing continued movement. Jerry Yang, former founder and president of Yahoo, sits on their board. He runs a private equity firm, sits on their board. I think Jerry Yang is probably giving Jack Ma some good ideas for acquisitions here in the United States.
So you think it's going to be mainly done through acquisitions? Or, I mean, how are they going to convince international consumers to buy stuff through Alibaba?
Well, I think as we'll see on Singles' Day, that AliExpress is the international website, and I recommend, Karina, that like myself, I'll be on there buying things. There's some great deals to be had. So I think it's about going out and them telling their story. It's a great story. It's about connecting buyers and sellers more efficiently, and Alibaba does it better than anyone else out there.
So Jack Ma has said that he wants Singles' Day to become an international phenomenon, not just one in China. Do you think that's really possible? Well, what's the awareness of it right now globally?
Well, Katy Perry and Kobe Bryant are going to help bring that. They'll be in Shenzhen at the big gala. So certainly bringing in international stars gives it an international flavor, and AliExpress will gain traction over time. And these are good deals. I recommend viewers go out and take a look themselves.
All right. Well, one thing investors also seemed to be impressed with was Alibaba's cloud computing business, which grew 130% revenue, that is, as compared to a year ago. But it's still not profitable. Do you expect, though, the cloud computing to be a growth driver for the company? It has considerable, of course, competition from Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, the cloud computing is only $200 million in revenue. They did $5.1 billion in the quarter. So why are we talking about it? It's that growth. That not only has the growth been outstanding, 130% year over year, but that loss was $60 million last quarter. It's only $8 million. So you're about to have that unit contribute to both top line as well as, more importantly, the bottom line, net income. All
right, so we've been very positive on this, though there are some naysayers out there. There's a lot of short interest in the stock right now, really increased since May. What does it have to do with? Why are some betting against the company?
Well, I think, one, that Alibaba is the largest Chinese company here in the U.S. At times, people don't understand the strength of this domestic consumption story. And so I think sometimes investors use Alibaba as a proxy for broader China. We at Krane investors are talking about the positives that are taking place in China, as evidenced by great companies like Alibaba and the great earnings they put up. Sometimes it gets overshadowed by a few of the challenges, the headwind of tepid global growth that affects their export-driven manufacturing sector.
Okay, well, a specific challenge for Alibaba is, of course, this SEC investigation. Despite the strong earnings today, we saw the stock was down.
Yeah.
How worried should investors be about this probe?
Well, I think ultimately the SEC responded to people bringing the case to them. They had to respond. I think the company wants to put this, I think the accusations are frivolous in nature. They're not based factually. And I think the SEC should address this issue, allow a great company to get back to doing great things.
All right, clearly bullish on the stock.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That was Brendan Ahern, Chief Investment Officer of Krane Funds Advisors.